Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good to see you today, this Monday morning, December 16. Thank you so much for joining us here on Free Speech TV. You know how to find us on your satellite dish on the DirecTV or Dish Network. And we're also coming to you live on our video stream at TawkrTV. TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV. This Monday morning, you're looking good. Hope you had a good weekend, filled with holiday parties and shopping and just getting into the holiday spirit. Meanwhile, here in Washington, D.C., members of the House of Representatives are already home for the holidays, having passed the budget deal late Thursday evening. They should be feeling guilty. I certainly hope they're feeling guilty because they left town without doing anything about unemployment benefits, which expire for 1.3 million Americans on December 28. But of course, those are members of working families. They are middle-class Americans. Republicans don't give a rat's ass about them. They refuse to do anything about unemployment benefits. They say, maybe we'll think about it when we come back in January. The Senate is here this week, however, and the Senate will be voting on that same budget deal probably as early as tomorrow. Then they'll be home for the holidays. Meanwhile, another school shooting over the weekend in Colorado. Yes, again, one day before the first anniversary of Newtown. Very, very sad. But of course, we don't have to do anything about guns because guns don't kill people. People kill people. We know that. Yeah, people kill people with guns. When are we going to get serious about it? We got lots to talk about. Don't forget, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Let's get to it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids
you.
how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat?
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, if you're collecting unemployment insurance, you are out of luck because it expires, at least for those who've been on unemployment for more than 26 weeks. It expires December 28th. Members of the House went home. They don't care. They left it undone. Hey, good morning, everybody. Got a little bit of sad news. We kick off another week here on the Bill Press Show. Here we go. It is Monday, December 16. Last full week before we take a little Christmas break, all of us. And the House of Representatives already off. Members of the House on their Christmas break. Members of the Senate in town today. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital with our eye on the action here, such as it is, not only here, but around the country, around the globe, another school shooting out in Colorado. Alas, 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 but we still refuse to do anything about guns, of course. And we'll take a look at the rest of the world situation, critical over in, don't mess with Kim Jong-un, not even if you're a family member, right? Not even if you're the uncle. He showed that he doesn't really care about his blood relatives executing his uncle for what he says was treason. Anyhow, wherever it's happening, we'll bring you the news of the day, tell you all about it, and most importantly, find out what you think about what's going on. That's what we love, to hear from you by phone at 866-55-PRESS, to hear from you on your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hail, hail, the gang's all here this morning. We all survived our annual Christmas lunch on Friday.
Which is never a given that we're going to that we're all going to survive.
There have been tales that some years some people have survived better than others, shall we say. Peter Ogburn, good morning.
Hey.
With
Happy
Elisa
Monday.
Murphy. Hi, Lisa.
Good morning.
Everything good?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Alicia Cruz, there she is on the phone, standing by, and Cyprian Bowling. If anybody, I wasn't sure Cyprian was going to make it in today.
I'm not going to say
he's here.
I won't rat anybody out, but I will say that someone threatened to twerk at the Christmas party, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm just saying it was thrown out there.
Wasn't I?
All eyes on Cyprian.
A lot of football over the weekend, and the Washington's team. Now they made a big change here. They benched their star quarterback because their star quarterback was not performing. So now we go in with the second string. He's not a second string, but their backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And let's see how they did on Sunday. They actually had a chance to win, and then it came down to this.
This is it. Cousins takes, looking right, flush to the right, scrambling, fires, deflected, incomplete. Incomplete, and the gamble does not pay off. And the Redskins will fall for the sixth straight week.
6 straight losses for the Washington football team. Can't they just at this time of the season just say, "Well, okay, we're out of the playoffs. We stink. We're just not going to play the rest of the games."
I mean, they might as well.
Huh?
They might as well.
Who's going to go to their games from now on?
Fools. People cheering for the other team.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. If they have any home games,
but look,
why would you go?
Some of these guys are competing for jobs, so they have to show that they're still good enough to play. But yesterday's game, I didn't watch much of it, but it was comically bad. But on both parts. I mean, those might have been the two worst teams in the NFL: the Falcons
and Washington,
and they were terrible.
Yeah.
God, they were terrible.
All right. Well, all right. We got a lot going on. There's President Jim Hoffa of the Teamsters joining us a little bit later in the program. We'll have reporters from National Journal and from Huffington Post. And also, we'll be checking in with the Democratic Governors Association about some of the big races coming up in 2014. But first.
This is the Full Court Press.
What do you got?
Other football news today, Florida State University quarterback Jameis Winston was awarded the 79th Heisman Trophy on Saturday. Considered a front-runner by many college analysts, Winston led the Seminoles to an undefeated regular season and a chance to play for a national championship in January. Other Heisman contenders include quarterback Jordan Lynch of Northern Illinois, Trey Mason, running back of Auburn, and Johnny Manziel of Texas A&M.
So, famous Jameis, huh?
Famous Jameis, yeah. I think he deserves it. Hands down, he was the best football player all year.
Florida State?
Yeah, I think so.
Trailer parks are invading Manhattan. Motorhomes have invaded the Upper West Side, sparking fear in the hearts of residents worried their neighborhoods could be transformed into low-rent campsites.
But where are they? I mean,
in the Upper West Side. We're not even talking about the Village.
But there's no space up there. I mean, where are they putting them? In the street?
Right on the street.
Yeah.
There's actually a Rabbi Steve Bloomberg, has been living in his RV since 2007, which he bought on eBay for $8,000. The RV, with a roomy interior and a sit-down tub, has never been ticketed, but he's still uncertain of the law. Leaving a mobile home on a city street for more than 24 hours is illegal, according to the Department of Transportation. Enforcement is typically complaint-driven, and fines start at $115.
I say get them out of Manhattan, get them back to Mississippi.
They're even bigger than studio apartments, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You remember that old country song, My House Has Wheels?
The Canadian Postal Service announced plans to phase out door-to-door mail delivery in urban areas over the next 5 years. Critics say the plan also includes job losses totaling 8,000 and increased stamp prices. Defenders of the plan say the moves are necessary, helping to support the financial losses caused by decreased use of postal services. Man. The announcement was made one day after the Canadian Parliament recessed for the holidays.
That's nonsense. What, they're going to stop door-to-door delivery?
That's what they're phasing it out in the next 5 years is the plan.
I mean,
it's just like everybody's going to go to a mail center, I guess.
But all we talked about was maybe phasing out Saturday delivery. Everybody raised hell, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
Went back to it, so yeah. Good Canadians, you know. Come on, get with it. Support your postal workers. Use the post office. They do a great service. All right, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know whether you know or not, but it's the latest battle in the war on Christmas. Yes, this is, of course, a total invention of Fox News. Started with Bill O'Reilly. It's been going on. How many years now we had this stupid war on Christmas?
We've been doing the show for almost 9 years. Yeah. And I know when we first started, we were talking about it. So I'd say 9 or 10 years.
Yeah. And, of course, his big bitch in the beginning was that people were not saying Merry Christmas. They were saying Happy Holidays. And, he wanted to pass a law that in every retail store you had to say Merry Christmas. It doesn't matter whether people are Christians or Jews or atheists or whatever. You have to say Merry Christmas. That's all you can say. You can't say Happy Holidays. He also gets into a snit about the fact that sometimes, there's not a nativity scene, not a creche in front of every city hall in the land. Or what he finds equally offensive is there might be, the nativity scene, but there might also be a menorah, or there might also be something celebrating, maybe Festivus. In fact, the last show that I saw on Fox was Gretchen Carlson in her afternoon show, where she has really, she was sort of, I always felt kind of, I wouldn't say a moderate, but she wasn't a flaming right-winger when she was on Fox and Friends. But boy, she's come out of the closet as one of the most extreme of the Fox News guests on her afternoon show. And she was making a big deal about the fact that somewhere there was a Festivus poll in addition to a nativity scene, and she thought that was just outrageous.
It's a Festivus for the rest of us.
Festivus for the rest of us, right? But the most outrageous attack on Christmas, of course, came from reports of it came from Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly. End of last week on her new show, 9 o'clock on Fox. She is very, very upset because a young woman named Aisha Harris wrote a column in Slate magazine suggesting, basically, that Santa is sort of like whatever color you want him to be, you know? If you believe in Santa and you're a little African-American kid, you know, why couldn't Santa might be black, or Santa might be Latino, Santa could be Asian. Santa is Santa. And you think of Santa, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a certain color. Megyn Kelly says, no way. Damn it. I'm white and Santa's white.
In Slate, they have a piece on .com. Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore. And when I saw this headline, I kind of laughed, and I said, oh, this is so ridiculous. Yet another person claiming it's racist to have a white Santa, you know? And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. But, you know, Santa is what he is, and just so you know, we're just debating this because someone wrote about it, kids. Okay, I wanted to get that straight.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right. Don't you love that? Don't you love that condescension? First of all, the writer, Aisha Harris, did not say it's racist.
Right. She just made that leap on her own.
It is racist that Santa's white. She was just saying basically Santa doesn't have to be white. If you believe in Santa, you don't have to believe in a white Santa, okay? Just believe in the concept of Santa. So why does she have to go there, right? And insist as she does, that Santa is white. I mean, what she's really saying, almost word for word, is, look, kids, deal with it, okay? Embrace the suck. Santa is white, all right? That's it. End of story. Santa is white. By the way, I might ask, like Jon Stewart also asked, what kids are watching at 9 o'clock at night?
If you're a kid
what kids are watching Fox News? If you're young enough to believe in Santa, you ought to be in bed, right?
Yes.
And if you have any sense, you should not be watching Fox News, right? But anyhow, she says, that's it. Look, just knock it off, all right? He's white like me. And not only is Santa white, Megyn Kelly continues.
Jesus was a white man, too. But you know,
right.
It's like, he was a historical figure. I mean, that's a verifiable fact.
So we know. We know, she says, we got the records. We got the birth certificate, and Mary put down, what race are you? White. We got the historical record. You know, she is so wrong on that. I got to tell you, we don't know what color Jesus was, right? We know he looked like a hippie. We also know, right, because he had long hair.
Sure, and a beard.
Bare feet.
Sandals.
Beard, sandals, whatever. And if he was from where we think he's from, he was not white. He was, I'm not saying he was black, but he was dark-skinned.
Yeah, he wasn't from Minnesota.
Right. So, I mean, so there it is. The idea, just dogmatically saying, Santa's white and Jesus is white. And what she's really saying, love your take on this. To me, it's just outrageous. 866-55-PRESS. What she's really saying is, if they're any other color, it's wrong. What she's really saying is they've got to be white because somebody as good as Jesus and somebody as good as Santa has to be white. That's what she is saying. She is making a racist statement as far as I'm concerned. She is making sort of a judgment on the fact that only white people could be as good as Santa and only white people could be as holy as Jesus. Talk about a racist statement. 866-55-PRESS. And now Megyn Kelly says, I was just joking. Oh, no, she wasn't. Look at the tape. She wasn't joking. And she didn't say she was joking until 3 days later after all the stuff hit the fan. Let's get into it. 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora, Fort Hood.
Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being. For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go, 24 minutes after the hour. You know, I have a feeling that Pope Francis might have a different attitude about Christmas than Bill O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly and the folks at Fox News. I was just saying, you know, from his public comments so far, I mean, Pope Francis, who has said it doesn't really matter whether you're a believer or not, as long as you do good things. So I'm sure Pope Francis, as long as you observe the golden rule, so to speak, I'm sure Pope Francis wouldn't be around saying, unless you believe every little bit of that story about that manger and, you know, that place in Bethlehem and about the wise men and about the star. You believe every bit of that, right? And you believe that that little baby Jesus was a white baby. And unless you believe that that Santa Claus is a white Santa Claus, unless you believe that, man, you are against everything we believe in, and you are against Christmas. Now, I don't think Pope Francis would have gone there, but Megyn Kelly certainly went there. What do you think about it? 866-55-PRESS. What color was Santa? What color was Jesus? Who cares? Tim, down in Jackson, Mississippi. Hey, Tim, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, what do you think?
Megan was totally off the mark when she said that. I told her my Jesus probably didn't walk around with an umbrella out of the sun. He was probably very weathered and dark-skinned.
Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, and she totally reversed her statement the next night after my email. I mean, it's just outrageous what she said. It's just outrageous. I mean...
Well, about both Santa and about Jesus, right?
Both, yeah. I mean...
And why would she say it, right? What was the point?
Other than that she's just been at Fox News too long listening to this war on Christmas and what Bill O'Reilly and Roger Ailes and Murdochian views on everything.
That's what it is. I guess she's just drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, Tim, good to hear from you down there in Jack.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your call. Thank you for listening. I got to tell you, so I just don't understand why they keep going at this year after year. Well, and I think the answer is because so many people get into it and so many people believe it. But it's just nonsense. Let me tell you something. And I remember Michael Kinsley said this a long time ago. If you think that if you think it's tough to be a Christian in this country today because people are like making attacks against you, and attacking your religion, just think what it's like to be a non-Christian in America today, in a land where a lot of these conservative Christians think, of course, still that unless you're one of them, unless you believe like they do, you are going to burn in hell, or you're not a true American, or there's something wrong with you. That's still where the weight of opinion, I don't see public opinion, but that's still where the most of the prejudice is today. It's not against Christians, it's against non-Christians, it's against Jews, it's against Muslims, it's against Buddhists, it's against non-believers, it's against atheists, it's against libertarians, if you will. Anybody who doesn't profess that they are absolutely 100% Christian and believers in every word of the Bible. At any rate, the war on Christmas continues, at least if you believe Fox News. And if you believe Fox News, Santa is white, and so is Jesus. So there, take it. Love it or leave it. When we come back, what's the latest on this budget deal?
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
And online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you today on your local progressive talk radio station, wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. Good to be with you on Free Speech TV as well, on your satellite dish, DirecTV. And also, good to be here with you on our video stream. Those of you who prefer to watch rather than just listen, you can go to your computer, your laptop, your iPhone, or whatever, and go to youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. And we're coming to you live from our nation's capital. Very chilly nation's capital this morning, but no snow on the ground, and none predicted either this week, so far as I know. We're brought to you this morning by the International Association of Iron Workers, the good men and women of the iron workers, some of the most dangerous and most important work out there. The sky is the limit for them, and you can find out more about all their good work at www.ironworkers.org. We've been talking, I want to talk a little bit about the budget, but first we've been talking about Megyn Kelly. The war on Christmas continues. It's getting worse than ever, according to Fox News. Even Sarah Palin wrote a book, kind of late to the feast, I think, 9 years late to the war on Christmas feast, but she even wrote a book about it this year. And then Megyn Kelly certainly stirred up a lot of dust end of last week when she this was not just an offhand comment on Megyn Kelly's part. Should have mentioned that earlier. They planned an entire segment to prove that Santa was white, and they had 3 panelists, all of whom were white, I might add, on the show to talk with Megyn Kelly about whether, and not to talk with her, but to help reinforce her insistence that Santa is white, and so is Jesus. Damn it. You don't like it? Tough. Let's go back to the phones. 866-55-PRESS. You want to weigh in on this? Marco is out in Los Angeles. Hey, Marco.
How you doing, Bill? Great to hear you.
Thank you, and you.
My point is, Jesus wasn't black, but he wasn't white either. I've been to the Middle East. In fact, a lot of people couldn't tell whether I was a Palestinian or a Jew. I'm dark-skinned, but not real dark-skinned, more of an olive color, and Jesus is basically an olive-colored person as well.
Well, he had to be living in that area, right? Any of us who traveled to the Middle East,
right,
or have friends from there, know that, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Also, as far as Santa and Megan, she's completely off base. everybody knows that the Kris Kringle or whatever Santa Claus is based on two characters. The first is Saint Nick of Greece, who is also Mediterranean and olive colored, and the Winter Solstice character, who was the tall, skinny white guy that the old Norse people used to follow around. You know, he used to live lumps of coals in people's things.
But you know, Marco, the real question is, what does it matter, right? Who cares? I mean, the idea, for example, that the entire continent of Africa, right?
Yeah.
For those who believe in Santa Claus there, that or whatever they would call him in Africa, that for all those little black boys and girls in Africa, right? They got the white Santa Claus is bringing them their gifts, right? And it's got to be that way, and it always has been that way. I mean, what an outrageous statement.
Well, yeah, I think it's outrageous, but I always go around singing, you know, that Bill Marley song, I don't care what the white man says, Santa Claus was a black man.
I forgot about that.
It's nice talking to you, Bill.
All right, you too, Marco. Great to see you. Yeah, I'm telling you. All right. David is out in Chicago. Hi, David. What do you say? Good morning.
Morning, Bill. I have to agree with Marco here. We're protecting an ideology of a fictional character. Like, that's what we're yelling about. Is she going to be on next going, no, the Easter Bunny is pink, darn it. You can't have a white Easter Bunny. And, you know, as a caveat to the war on Christmas, as much as Bill and her and everybody else at Fox News wants to yell, maybe they should read their Bible. I mean, the three wise men don't even come at Jesus' birth. They come when he's a toddler. And it's painfully obvious that if you're in the Middle East at those years, they're not going to pay attention to a pasty white guy. They'd probably just kill him for arguing against them. I mean, even Romans weren't that white. So I don't know where this idea that this figure would come along would even fly.
I know, but and it's also such a dogmatic statement of hers, right? Any of you kids listening, right? You just got to know this. Before we even start the conversation, Santa is white. Deal with it. End of story. Go to bed, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I again... it's got almost like a colonial nature to it, don't you think? Too, you know, like in Africa, right? Particularly, I'm thinking it's the white men saying we're in charge, and Santa is white, and that's the end of the story, kids. All right, David, excellent points. I appreciate that. See, boy, Megan's really got it going here this morning. While we're out in Chicago, let's say hello to Richard. Hey, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday. How you doing?
All right. We're good.
You know, it's such a ridiculous comment. It's unbelievable. She's pandering to racists. But the interesting thing, I would love to see a little film snippet of Santa when he's not working, when he's down in Miami, getting a deep, dark tan. and I don't know about you, but if you ever were a pasty white person and you went to Florida on vacation where all the tan people were, and you walked out on the beach and you were
right,
and you were glowing because you were so white, then you would be too white among the white people, and you'd be ostracized.
Right. Or people would certainly be making fun of you, right? Because you were so absolutely.
They'd be stoning you and telling you, you know what? Get some what's the man tan, the stuff that you use to color your skin, the quick tan.
Well, that's what they used to call it. But that, you know, the Saturday Night Live had a lot of fun with this too. If you saw a clip of it with a very black Santa who was very proud to be black and a black Santa. Good points, Richard. Appreciate hearing from you as well out on the great WCPT in Chicago. Let's bounce out to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Carol, good morning.
Yes, I'm upset that somebody's saying that the Easter Bunny is white. He's always been chocolate.
I think I got your point. I think David said he was pink or something about that.
Yeah,
yes, we know the Easter Bunny is chocolate. Yes.
It's always a chocolate bunny that you eat on Easter.
Absolutely, Carol. At least where I come from, anyhow,
Definitely.
Right?
And Megyn Kelly, I mean, they're all being just the racist people that they are.
I think it's a racist statement to insist that Santa has to be white. Right.
I'm Spanish, and I'm not sitting there going, "Oh my God!" I think Christ was one color or another color or whatever color. It doesn't matter to me. Christ is whatever color God wanted him to be.
But also, I have to tell you, with little kids and around little kids at Christmas time, and there's nothing better to be around little kids at Christmas time, I don't think the kids, they're interested in kind of what Santa brings, right, and what Santa leaves in the stocking or leaves under the tree. I don't think they're really spending a lot of time wondering what color Santa is. Do you?
They're looking for that red suit. That's all they're looking for. The white beard, the red suit.
Exactly.
And I'm looking for chocolate on Easter. That's what everybody's looking for.
All right. You got it. Thanks, Carol. Always good to hear from you out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yes, indeed. Well, I think we know where we're coming from with Megyn Kelly's comment. And, I wouldn't say I'm a Megyn Kelly fan, but I've always found her to be very smart, very tough. I've been on the show when she used to do the show with Bill Hemmer, and I have not been on her latest show, but when she did the morning show with Bill Hemmer, I was off and on with the two of them. I've debated Megyn Kelly. I thought she was a cut above your average Fox host, but there is something, and I forget, maybe one of our earlier callers made that point. There is something about the longer people are around Fox, the more crazy they become, and the more extreme right-wing ideologue they become. I really do think they're drinking the Kool-Aid. I think that's what it is. And so maybe, that her show that night came after the Fox office Christmas party. And they had spiked the Kool-Aid or something, and she felt she had to go on her show and bring in 3 guests as a special panel just to deal with a point and tell the kids of America, knock it off. Don't you dare think that Santa was any other color than white. When we come back, Steve Shepard from the National Journal on the news of the day, what we can expect from the Senate on that budget deal. It's Monday, December 16, The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 14 minutes before the top of the hour, Jennifer Duffy, senior editor of Cook Political Report, will tell us about the big Senate races coming up next year at the top of the next hour. Things are kind of winding down here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. For the holidays, the House is already out. The Senate in session, at least for a few days this week. Let's find out about the latest. Steve Shepard joins us. He is executive director of the National Journal Hotline. You can find at nationaljournal.com. Steve, good Monday morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Okay, so I guess the first order of business is this budget deal with the Senate, right? A very impressive vote by the House on Thursday night for the budget deal.
It was, and though the Senate has been sort of in this era of divided government and the Congress divided, the Senate's been a little bit more collegial in the past, but I don't think that that's what we're going to see this week. Things are a little toxic and poisonous in the Senate since Harry Reid invoked the nuclear option. Republicans also feel like they were frozen out of these budget negotiations. Remember, it was House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan and Senate Budget Committee Chairwoman Patty Murray who negotiated this deal. So Senate Republicans were kind of frozen out of that by their own party, in addition to their anger at Senate Democrats. So I think they're going to drag this out a little bit.
So it's not going to be automatic, is what you're saying?
No, and also, if you saw yesterday, Senator Dick Durbin, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, went on CBS's Face the Nation and said that he thinks that they need 8 Republican votes to invoke cloture to get to 60. Now, there are 55, counting the 2 independents who caucus as Democrats. There are 55 Democrats, so that means they're expecting at least a few Democratic defections as well. So now you need, instead of 5 Republicans, you need 8, maybe. You know, that could be... It could be a little bit of a nail biter, but in the end, I think most folks think that they eventually get this done.
And my understanding is that they have to take it up or down, right? I mean, they can't amend it because the House isn't here to
the House is gone, and so basically, yes. And I think Harry Reid is going to what they call fill the amendment tree to make sure that there are no amendments that could scuttle this thing.
But the other difference, of course, between the House and the Senate is in the House, and this was unusual in the House, but John Boehner stood up to the Tea Party and said, no, I'm for this deal, and we're going to have the full House vote on it, right? Mitch McConnell has taken the Republican leader in the Senate, a different tack, right? He says he's openly said he's going to oppose it.
He's going to oppose it, and some other...
Is he going to whip it, or, you know, isn't that the phrase they use? Do you think he'll be trying to line up support against it or just vote against it?
That's not very clear right now. I think right now there are a number of Republicans who are on the fence, some of the more moderate Republicans. The only Republican I've seen who's definitively come out and said that they're going to support it is John McCain. But even then, you have Senator Lindsey Graham, who faces a primary challenge next year, usually votes with McCain and in that sort of block of Republicans. He said he's going to oppose this. So I think this could be a little bit closer to 60 than some people might be comfortable with.
Have they scheduled a vote yet? I mean, do we know? Is it tomorrow? Is it end of the week?
The procedural vote is tomorrow. At least as of now, it's possible that if the votes aren't there, they might push that back. But as of now, I think Harry Reid's planning on having that vote for the 60-vote threshold vote, which is the key vote, tomorrow.
To open up debate and then later vote on.
Right, and that would also
itself.
set a clock on debate so that there would be then a final vote roughly around Thursday.
Now, again, we're talking with Steve Shepard, Executive Director of the Great Hotline, published by the National Journal, nationaljournal.com. Steve, I want to ask you, this has kind of gotten lost lately, is a whole flap over NSA. But the president appointed a 5-member advisory board or review board or something to take a look at NSA's practices after the whole thing came out about we were bugging Angela Merkel's private cell phone. And they're supposed to report by the end of the year. What do we know about that? What can we expect? Or can we expect anything this week? What do you hear?
Well, the most interesting thing to me is actually the 60 Minutes report yesterday, last night.
About Snowden?
It was extraordinary the extent to which a very usually clandestine organization opened up its doors to a TV crew. And I think that really speaks to, we here at Hotline are 100% politics, and I think that really speaks to the political problem that I think the administration and also the executive branch, just as an institution, knows that it's facing sort of a trust gap over a lot of these disclosures of the NSA's behaviors and procedures that people didn't know about, and a lot of people are pretty up in arms about. So, we'll have to see how these review processes go. I know that the president has said that he would like to rein in the agency to some extent, but that I feel like sort of harder to undo than to do in the first place. Yeah, and we also saw stories that it was the New York Times, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, that experts are now saying in the intelligence world that they have no idea of how much stuff Snowden really was able to take away. That it is just we've seen just maybe the tip of the iceberg so far of the documents that he took. And it's pretty extraordinary that the Washington Post even last week had 1 or 2 new big stories based on the documents that they've received through him, and who knows where that ends. By the way, I must say I'm in the middle of it right now, but Ryan Lizza has an incredibly powerful piece in this week's New Yorker magazine about the whole NSA thing, and he's really delved into it. And also a great profile as part of that piece on Ron Wyden, the senator from Oregon, who's been the leading critic of NSA's activities and leading champion, I think, of reforming our intelligence operations. So we'll see how that plays out this week, but that issue is certainly not. It may be off the front pages right now, but it hasn't disappeared. Not at all. Hey, Steve, always good to have you with us. Thank you so much, and we'll be watching the budget battles with you this week. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's thenationaljournal.com.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek, now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the product suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. It is just 3 minutes before the top of the hour. Again, Jennifer Duffy from Cook Political Report at the top of the next hour, and then Christina Wilkie from the Huffington Post. President Jim Hoffa from the Teamsters joins us a little bit later in the program. Peter, what's going on?
Time Magazine's Person of the Year,
You
Pope
communist.
Francis.
You communist.
Well, a lot of people have called Pope Francis a communist, a Marxist over some of his comments. He pushed back. He says he is not a Marxist, quoting him in an interview that he gave to Italian newspaper La Stampa. He says, quote, "Marxist ideology is wrong, but I have met many Marxists in my life who are good people, so I don't feel offended." Like, what can you do to make this Pope angry or to offend him?
No. Some of my best friends are Marxists.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not a Marxist, but some of my...
There's nothing wrong with
my
it.
best friends are Marxists. And in fact, I wonder if Megyn Kelly knows this. Jesus was a Marxist. And so is Santa Claus.
Right.
Think about it. Oh, boy. Here we go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good to see you today, this Monday morning, December 16. Thank you so much for joining us here on Free Speech TV. You know how to find us on your satellite dish on the DirecTV or Dish Network. And we're also coming to you live on our video stream at TawkrTV. TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV. This Monday morning, you're looking good. Hope you had a good weekend, filled with holiday parties and shopping and just getting into the holiday spirit. Meanwhile, here in Washington, D.C., members of the House of Representatives are already home for the holidays, having passed the budget deal late Thursday evening. They should be feeling guilty. I certainly hope they're feeling guilty because they left town without doing anything about unemployment benefits, which expire for 1.3 million Americans on December 28. But of course, those are members of working families. They are middle-class Americans. Republicans don't give a rat's ass about them. They refuse to do anything about unemployment benefits. They say, maybe we'll think about it when we come back in January. The Senate is here this week, however, and the Senate will be voting on that same budget deal probably as early as tomorrow. Then they'll be home for the holidays. Meanwhile, another school shooting over the weekend in Colorado, yes, again, one day before the first anniversary of Newtown. Very, very sad. But of course, we don't have to do anything about guns because guns don't kill people. People kill people. We know that. Yeah, people kill people with guns. When are we going to get serious about it? We got lots to talk about. Don't forget, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Let's get to it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov. If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The House has passed the budget and went home. Now it's up to the Senate, and it's not going to be easy. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? Here we go. Monday, December 16. Good to see you today. Wow, can you believe it? December 16 already. Rolling fast into the holidays. Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome back to the, I don't know, I wouldn't say this is the real world here in Washington, D.C. I started to say welcome back to the real world. But welcome back to the work week and the news week. We'll tell you what's going on here in our nation's capital. Most of the focus is on what's happening with the budget. Also expecting the report from the president's review, internal review of the NSA procedures and procedures for not just NSA but all of our intelligence agencies should be out this week. Recommended changes, we would hope, and to protect all of our liberties. We'll take a look at what's happening here again in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. And most importantly, take a chance to give you an opportunity. Let us know what you think about it all. Yeah, as I always say, our job is to bring you the news. Your job, tell us what you think about it. We'll find a seat for you at the table to join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here on a Monday morning, everybody had the weekend to rest up after our big holiday lunch at the Palm on Friday, and so we're all here this morning. Peter Osborne.
Hey.
With Elisa Murphy. Hi, Lisa.
Good morning.
Alicia Cruz here on the phone. She's got her voice back, too, so she can take your calls. And Cyprian Bolding, as always, looking good on the video cam. I want you to know that I got out to see a movie over the weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Highly recommend. Nebraska. I had heard great things about it.
I heard it's wonderful.
Really, really, really good. Yeah. A little slow moving, but that's the whole point, and it's in black and white.
I mean, it's about Nebraska.
It's about Nebraska.
Not exactly Bright Lakes, big city.
And no, little towns in Nebraska, and a very, very funny, dysfunctional family.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
Reminded me of my own.
Hit a little close to home, did it?
Hit a little close to home. Yes, indeed. But it's really good. Bruce Dern has been, but the Golden Globes recommended him. Got Best Actor.
I keep hearing about how amazing he is in it.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it got a Best Picture nomination or not from the Golden Globes, but it's Oscar material.
Good to know.
Sure. Yeah.
Good to know.
And you saw a great movie too, I understand. Peter, right?
I saw The Hobbit.
Yeah.
The Desolation of Smog. I took the kid. Well, the kids wanted to take me because this was their birthday present to me, was to go and see this, right? And it was fine.
Did they pay?
Well, they said they paid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we know where they got their money. I like the original Lord of the Rings series. I thought that was really good. And then the first Hobbit was meh, and then this one was even more meh.
Yeah.
I mean, the first series was based on 3 books, 3 movies, 3 books. These are 3 movies based on 1 book. So just cut the crap and stop trying to milk me for all my money to go see 3 parts of one book.
The other thing I did Friday morning is I bought my Mega Millions tickets because it was up like $485 million or something. And I'd never bought a Mega Million ticket before.
Oh, okay.
And unlike Powerball, they're $1.
All you need is $1 and a dream.
I know, right? So, man, I sprung for $5.
Man.
I didn't even come close. I
No?
think I had in 5, combinations, I had maybe 2, but nobody won, right?
No.
So now there's another drawing tomorrow night, and then another one on Friday. And if nobody wins tomorrow and nobody wins on Friday, it could go up into the $1 billion range, which could create some problems. Like, for example, in Virginia, the billboards that they've got to tell how much the Mega Millions is, they don't go that high. So Paula Otto, who is in charge of the Virginia lottery, says if nobody wins on Friday, they're going to have to just redesign all their billboards.
If we don't have a winner this Tuesday, if we don't have a winner this Friday, we're going to have to buy some new billboards because our billboards don't go past $1 billion.
Wow. See that? They'll have to go up. They're going to have really big billboards. Billion, man. Well, I wasn't sure how I was going to spend $485 million. Now it's even more complicated.
It's going to get really tough now. What a pain for you to have to figure out how to spend your billions.
Well, going to get my tickets today.
All right.
Tomorrow night. All right. Yes, indeed. Hey, coming up to 2014, lots of important races going on, particularly for control of the United States Senate. Jennifer Duffy, that's her territory with the Cook Political Report, senior editor, of course, a good friend of the program, and it's nice to welcome her back on our news line this morning. Hi, Jennifer. Happy holidays. Good to talk to you.
Good morning. Happy holidays to you, too. Hard to believe they're right around the corner.
Isn't it, though? Yeah, absolutely. So give us the big picture, first of all. How many Senate seats are up? And how many Republicans and how many Democrats?
Well, we have 34 races. We've got 20 Democrats. We have 14 Republicans. We have 7 open seats. Democrats have 5 of those. Republicans have 2.
Whoa. 7 open seats and Democrats with 5 of them, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So they're considered more of a challenge, of course, aren't they?
Yes. Right now, 3 of their open seats, Montana, South Dakota, West Virginia, we all have those tilting towards Republicans today. Those are, at least at the federal level, can be pretty Republican seats or Republican states. And Democrats, struggle to find candidates in a lot of them. It's early, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now,
3 out of 5, you have leaning Republican at this time.
Right.
Right. Now, the current lineup in the Senate is 53 Democrats, correct?
Right.
45 Republicans.
Right.
And 2 independents.
Right, who caucus with Democrats, so
right.
Let's call it 55-45. For
how many seats then will Republicans have to pick up to gain control?
Yeah, they have a big job. They need 6. And, despite the fact that we've got 3 leaning towards, Democrats, the other, or Republicans, the other 3 are a big uphill climb.
I see. So 6 is going to be a tough job.
6 is a tough job.
Yeah.
It's doable. It's just hard. Republicans need some breaks, and those breaks, if they get them, are going to come in primaries.
So let's talk about some of the some of the races that. What do you think are the most important ones? The ones that are going to get the most attention because they're either the biggest states or the closest races.
Well, if you just sort of judged it on money, we can talk about Senator Pryor in Arkansas, where the ad wars have been up and running now for months. Then on the other Democratic seats we're looking at are Senator Begich in Alaska, Senator Landrieu in Louisiana, Senator Hagan in North Carolina, and right now, here's the biggest surprise to us right now, the open seat in Michigan. On the Republican side, this sort of illustrates what Democrats' problem is, and that is that you're looking at 14 seats, by and large, in very Republican states. Right now, we only have 2 that we consider pretty competitive. Mitch McConnell, which I think Democrats consider the golden ring of this election.
Yeah.
And then the open seat in Georgia.
Now, remind me, why is there an open seat in Michigan?
Senator Levin is retiring.
Wow, I forgot that Carl Levin was retiring.
I know.
Whoa. Okay. And and who are the candidates there, or do we know yet?
Yeah, we do know. One of them, the Democrat, is a congressman named Gary Peters from around Detroit, and the Republican is former Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land. So this sort of helps Republicans in a sense where we don't see the kind of Tea Party-driven primaries we're seeing in some other states. And judging from the last 2 or 3 polls that were released, this is a tied race today.
In Michigan. Whoa.
In Michigan, I know.
Yeah.
This is not something I expected to see. That if it got competitive, I didn't really see it getting very competitive until next summer, but it's there, and I think we probably can talk about health care reform being a big part of it.
An open seat in Georgia, again, retiring there?
Saxby Chambliss.
Saxby Chambliss,
Right.
And
Democrats have a terrific candidate whose name will be, or at least last name will be familiar to you, Michelle Nunn.
Yes.
She's been the CEO of Points of Light. She has great contacts in the business community. Her fundraising has been great. On the Republican side, well, you have a really crowded primary. And you've got, remember, too, Georgia's a runoff state. So nobody gets 50% in the primary. You go to a runoff, and there are enough candidates, enough serious candidates in this race that we're probably looking at that. And you've got two very, very conservative House members, Paul Brown, Phil Gingrey, who would struggle, I think, statewide. You've got some other pretty conservative candidates. You've got a self-funder who is the cousin of a former governor. So again, kind of a popular first name or last name rather. It's going to be a battle.
Yeah, and Sam Nunn was very much a moderate Democrat, had a lot of Republican support.
Right, and it doesn't seem that Apple has fallen too far from the tree in that regard.
Now, does Mitch McConnell have a serious Tea Party challenge in Kentucky?
He does, in a businessman named Matt Bevin, although I have to say that right now McConnell is more than holding his own. He's got a huge lead here. The question we have is how much money does Matt Bevin have? He's got some personal money. And how much is he willing to put in?
Right.
A couple $1 million is probably not a problem for McConnell. If you get over $5 million or so, could become a big problem.
John Cornyn, of course, now has a Tea Party
Not so worried about this one.
Yeah, really.
Steve Stockman surprised everybody. I talked to a lot of people last week and said, had you even heard that Steve Stockman was contemplating running? And everybody said no. This was a
what does he have, about like $30,000 in the bank or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, and a whole lot of debt, which is pretty unhealthy. Not really sure what motivated this challenge. There are a number of other very minor, never heard of candidates in this race. I don't foresee Cornyn having a big problem. Getting known in Texas is about as hard as getting known in California.
In California, sure.
So, it made some news last week, but I don't think that.
I think it made news because Stockman's so crazy.
Well, that too.
Now, two other races I want to ask you about quickly. First of all, we didn't think we would have a Senate contest in Virginia. Well, we know the Republicans would have put up somebody, but and last week Ed Gillespie is admitting that he's seriously thinking about running. Would he have to go to one of these conventions, or would there be a primary?
No, actually, they have already voted to hold a convention.
Again,
again, talk about not learning your lesson.
Right.
Again, it's a decision they made in June. Last June.
Yes.
To do this, so a year out. I think that obviously Gillespie is pretty well known in Republican circles. He can probably raise some money. I would still call that a really tough race for Republicans.
Because
even if he does run.
Yeah, Mark Warner's a very popular former governor and
very popular, very well funded.
And Mary Landrieu in Louisiana.
Mary Landrieu in Louisiana.
Toughest one for Democrats, maybe, huh?
Yeah, that is tough. Again, you've got a couple of things going on. The state gets more and more Republican. It is this jungle primary. Everybody runs on the same ballot. If nobody gets 50%, then you have a runoff, which unfortunately for those of us who watch Senate races is in December, way past the time we want to be looking at Senate races. So her principal opponent is a congressman named Bill Cassidy. There are some more conservative Republicans in there. That there's one, a retired military guy, Bob Manis, who's getting some attention from the Tea Party. Obviously, the more candidates in this race, the more likely you are to have a runoff. But I think the fact that Landrieu is on the air now, as is the Senate Majority PAC. Pretty much tells you where this race is.
Yeah.
And in that boat, too, would be Kay Hagan in North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. That's right, too, yeah. Well, Jennifer, always interesting times, and this is going to be a big, big year. You're on top of it. Thanks so much for a little roundup this morning. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Jennifer. Right, Jennifer Duffy with the Cook Political Report.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Oh, well, we are just at 27 minutes after the hour here. Christina Wilkie from Huffington Post will be joining us in the next segment to talk about the aftermath of this first anniversary of Newtown. But we have, on the political front, a little news this week. We have another Bush, just what we need, another Bush running for political office. This is George P. Bush, who is running for land commissioner down in Texas. Why? We've had George H.W., now we have George W., now we have George P. He is Jeb's
Little
son.
George.
Right. And he says, here's why he wants to be elected.
I'm George P. Bush, and I'm running for Texas Land Commissioner because I want to make a difference in the lives of all Texans.
Because my name's Bush, that's why I'm running.
And you know what a difference land commissioner makes on the lives of Texans.
So his great-grandfather was Prescott Bush, U.S. Senator. His grandfather was George H.W. His uncle was George W. His daddy was Jeb. So what do you think? What are the chances you think this guy would actually go out and get a real job? No. He's going to be a freeloader like all the rest of his family.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Monday morning, December 16, the Bill Press Show. Booming out to you live from our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill here in Washington, D.C. Brought to you today by the good men and women of Ullico Incorporated. Under President Ed Smith, proudly serving the union workplace for more than 85 years now, offering specialty insurance, risk solutions, investment products, and services to good labor union members all across this country. To find out more about their good work, you can visit their website at ullico.com. That's ULLICO.com. Offering solutions for the union workplace. This weekend, marking the first anniversary of the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School up in Newtown, Connecticut. And then the day before, here we go with another school shooting out in Colorado. It seems like there is one a week, another one yet in Colorado, one a week these days. Christina Wilkie covers these issues for Huffington Post and joins us again in our studio this morning. Hi, Christina.
Hi,
Good
Bill.
to see you.
Thanks for having me back.
You have not only written about Newtown, you've been up there.
I have.
Right, and talked to a lot of residents there.
Yeah.
And what's the feeling in Newtown? I mean, they must be frustrated by the lack of action on the part of Congress, but is this become a cause for them, or what do you find?
It's become a cause for some people. It's become a cause for some of the parents, certainly not all of them. The town decided in October, this past October, that it wouldn't mark the one-year anniversary of Sandy Hook with anything formal.
Mhm.
They asked for privacy from the media, privacy from the public.
And they got it for the most part, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Most of the nation's media decided they were not going to send
Exactly.
their crews, and I thought was a great decision.
I did too. And 12 of the families, 12 of the 26 affected families, they went away for a ski trip that week. That they all went together, so they got out of
Really?
town.
Yeah.
They sought their own kind of privacy. I mean, the town is shattered. And there's not always agreement over how best to memorialize the lives lost, what best to do now, whether after their stinging defeat in April of the Senate gun bill, whether guns and gun safety is really where they want to put their energy. You know, there are questions about whether they could handle another loss like that.
But so some do and some don't, I guess. Is that
Very
right?
much,
Some,
yeah.
Right.
Some parents simply want to.
There was a service here in Washington, and some parents did come down for that, or some.
They did. I was there. It was at the National Cathedral. It was a beautiful vigil. And what they were trying to draw attention to really was all the people who aren't in the news who've died from gun violence, and the numbers vary, but it's tens of thousands in the past year, whether it's in a crime or self-inflicted. There are so many lives have been lost, and Newtown gets obviously so much attention because it was so horrifying.
What happened to the school?
The school has been razed, destroyed.
Really?
Yep, bulldozed to the ground, and it was part of the town's desire to move on.
Are they building another school at the site? Or?
They've moved. I don't think they plan to build anything at this site. They've transferred the kids to different other schools in the area. They're planning this long-term mental health for this for these communities, people to talk to. But there's a sense certainly that they want to put this behind them, and you really feel that when you go there.
Meanwhile, is there any? Did you find any connection between Newtown and what happened? It was
Arapahoe High School in Colorado.
High School?
No. There was, from a timing perspective,
just a coincidence. It was the
Arapahoe
same weekend?
High School. Yeah, Arapahoe High School was an 18-year-old whose mother happened to be out of town that weekend, who had harbored a grudge since September against his debate coach after he was kicked off the debate team, and who legally bought a pump-action shotgun, 12 gauge, on December 6th. And on Thursday he bought ammunition, and on Friday he went to school to kill his debate coach.
A young man like the young man up in Newtown. That's maybe the only.
I mean, I think that's one thing we need to look at really strongly is that it appears that whether it was the Aurora shooter or the Tucson shooter or the Newtown shooter, I mean, it kills me to identify all these places. Or now the Arapahoe High School shooter. All these were young men who showed signs before it happened, who showed signs before they went off the rails of needing help, of being bullied, of having mental breakdown, of having really aggressive thoughts.
And there must be, I don't want to totally blame it on the media, but which of course we can't and shouldn't, but there must be something now that they know that other young men their age have also had anger and been able to act out in this way, right? It almost legitimizes it for them. This is what you do if you're full of rage and of the age when you can buy a gun. I mean, I hate to think of it that way.
Yeah, that's a really tough way to think about it. Obviously, when these tragedies happen, we report them. One of the interesting things that happened this past weekend is that the Arapahoe sheriff said on Saturday that he's not going to mention the young man's name again. And so one of the things the media, we as reporters have grappled with is how we ethically talk about these tragedies, how we give memory to the victims. There's a 17-year-old girl, Claire Davis, who's in a coma this morning, who was shot on Friday in the head by this disturbed young man.
And that seemed to be a totally mindless. He went looking for his debate coach. The sheriff also said, so why did he shoot her? I mean, I don't know whether he even knew her, right? He had no grudge against her.
No, and it's unclear right now whether she tried to approach him, whether she knew who he was. He was wearing a ski mask and he had a hoodie on. So, maybe she was simply in his way. He got off 5 rounds.
And the sheriff did say that he intended to kill many more people. He had enough ammunition, right?
And he had Molotov cocktails on him, and he had a bandolier covered in ammunition. I mean, this was a guy who intended this to be a mass shooting.
Police response in Arapahoe?
Very exemplary.
They said that he committed suicide so quickly before...
Because he knew that authorities were on the way. Yeah.
Because he knew the sheriff deputy was closing in on him. So they've learned from Columbine, I guess, right? One of
the great lessons in Columbine in 1999 was that when they realized there was an active shooter situation inside this high school, authorities surrounded the school, but they didn't go in it. They waited for SWAT teams to show up. They didn't know what they were facing. They'd never seen anything like this, where students would take over a school with guns. But they've acknowledged now that perhaps had they gone in more quickly, more lives would have been saved. And so they were inside the school in Arapahoe High School within 12 minutes of their first call, and all the shooter was dead within 80 seconds. Yeah.
From the time they entered?
From the time he entered.
Oh, from the time he entered.
Yeah, he was in the school for 1 minute and 20 seconds. He got off 5 rounds before killing himself, but he was notified by a man at the school, a school employee, that the sheriffs were on their way. And I mean, they believe that that's what prompted him to take his life when he did.
What is it about Colorado? I mean, you are from Colorado.
Yeah, I went to high school in Colorado. I lived in Colorado for 10 years. Colorado, in many ways, is the epicenter of some of the biggest gun debates we're having in the country right now over whether those who believe in gun rights can live and vote alongside those who believe in gun safety. Colorado passed far-reaching earlier this year, in the beginning of the year, far-reaching gun safety legislation. They've got universal background checks now. They've got a 15-capacity magazine limit. And the two of the state senators later this summer, the backlash was so big that 2 state senators were recalled. They lost their jobs. Another one, third one, resigned so that the Colorado Democrats didn't lose the majority in the state house. So this was, there was hundreds of thousands of dollars poured in both by the NRA and other sides.
Do Colorado's gun laws, they still are in effect?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Even
because of the recall, they are. Right. They're going to stay.
And then the story this weekend, another story out of Colorado this weekend, and it's a lead story at the top of your publication, Huffington Post this morning, reported first by the New York Times. Renegade sheriffs, this is Colorado, renegade sheriffs refuse to enforce new gun laws. So they're saying, even though it's the law, we're not going to enforce the law?
Yep. That is exactly what they're saying. This is especially prevalent in the northwestern part of Colorado, where earlier this year, 11 counties held votes on whether or not to secede from the state. So you really have an incredible...
But they lost.
Yeah, well, 5 counties voted to secede. 6 voted against it. But so this is the level of emotion that you have up there. And I think the New York Times profiled a Greeley, Colorado sheriff who said, they're a little squirrely about it. They say things like, it's at the bottom of our priority list, or this sheriff held up two magazines that were neither of which were legal anymore, and he said, I got this one before the law went into effect. I maybe got this one afterwards, and but yeah, they're sending a really clear signal to citizens that the gun laws don't apply, and that's dangerous.
Now these sheriffs are elected, aren't they?
Oh yeah, yep, 27 counties. 21 of these sheriffs, I believe, earlier this summer, challenged the gun laws in court. So, to have this kind of division between those who are supposed to enforce the laws passed by the state Senate and those who are passing them, it makes Colorado an incredibly unique state right now.
A dangerous state, I would say, too.
I love my home state. Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. Complicated stuff.
When you have law enforcement officers saying we are not going to enforce the law,
there's a breakdown. There's a major breakdown.
There's a total breakdown. The frustration. We all said last year at this time, after Newtown, this is it. This is it. This is going to be. This is just what it takes. Sadly, it took that to prompt this nation to do something about gun safety, particularly to protect our kids. And what happened? Nothing. Why? And now we're up to like one school shooting a month, it seems like. 866-55-PRESS. Christina Wilkie here in studio from Huffington Post. Join the conversation when we come back on The Bill Press Show.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Know it, and you could die.
Association, or visit our website to learn more.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. It is 12 minutes now before the... before the top of the hour. President Jim Hoffa from the Teamsters here with us at the top of the next hour. And then we'll be joined by Danny Canner from the the Democratic Governors Association to talk about the important races for governor across the country up next year. It's going to be a busy year with every member of the House of Representatives, 34 Senate seats up next year, and I forget how many governorships. We'll find out from Danny Canner in the next hour. Right now, we're talking gun safety in wake of the first anniversary of Newtown and the latest school shooting out in Arapahoe County, I guess it is, Colorado, with Christina Wilkie, covers gun safety issues for Huffington Post. So where are we now with legislation in Congress? Anywhere?
No. This is a short answer.
in one word, right?
In one word, it has. There are no signs of any of the 6 senators who sunk the April bill changing their positions. There is no. That there isn't in an election year. There's never very much appetite for something that could be as divisive as gun safety. I think one of the places perhaps that we can look for some action is on some mental health laws, some mental health funding, some better community health care. I think when we look at these mass shootings or would-be mass shootings like Arapahoe, over the years, we see signs beforehand. We see young men who are disturbed. We see people who threatened. In the case of Arapahoe, this young man had threatened his debate teacher in September, and it had been reported to the cops, to authorities. So people knew beforehand that something was afoot.
So why should he be able to go out and buy a gun?
That's a really big question. And he was already on the authorities' radar. It's something that they haven't spoken about yet. They haven't given us details about how they handled this threat. But he'd been suspended from school for threatening
if there's a terror watch list, you would think there would be maybe a...
Right. If somebody with the wrong last name can't get on an airplane.
Right.
The question of how this guy went out and legally bought a pump-action 12-gauge and came back to school. And when he got to school, everyone knew who he was looking for. His friends, they said, the people who knew him said he was argumentative, said he always had to be right, said he was difficult personality. So you've got, in so many of these cases, you've got things that line up.
Two questions. Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey with their background. I mean, they haven't backed down, right? I mean,
no. And they say, if the landscape were to change, if questions, if they saw, an opening, a little oxygen for the bill, they wouldn't, it's not that they've rescinded it, but we remember that there are a lot of vulnerable Democrats, whether it's Kay Hagan, who voted for the background check bill, or Mary Landrieu and an Arkansas senator. I think we have Montana as well. So these are all challenged. Vulnerable Democrats, and the chances that they're going to take these dangerous votes is really small.
So with the Senate unwilling to act, and I think you're absolutely right, and not to mention that once it got to the House, it would certainly be probably DOA. And certainly nothing is going to happen in 2014 because it's an election year. Is the place to look really at the state level then?
Yes. Exactly. That's where I was speaking to at this vigil for victims of gun violence this past week. I was speaking to a number of gun violence activists, and they said they're planning to spend 2014 and 2015 at the state level, changing state laws. We saw sweeping laws change in Colorado and Connecticut this past year. Mm-hmm. We also saw other states and municipalities loosen their gun laws. You're going to have this push and pull, but I think that's where they see that they can make a difference in races. It doesn't cost as much to challenge a state senator as it does, God knows, a U.S. senator. So you've got, now with the introduction of Bloomberg and Mayors Against Illegal Guns, you have more money than anyone could have imagined flowing into the gun safety side of this fight. And that money goes a long way in state races.
Yeah, and with Bloomberg going out of office, I mean, he'll have even more time to devote to this, which has become certainly a big priority of his. And he has put his money up. Doesn't always work, but it certainly makes a big difference in every one of those races.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and if you consider before this, I mean, there was zero money essentially. I mean, you had the Brady campaign, you had a couple of groups that might get involved, but you had nothing like whether it's Gabrielle Gifford's group, Americans for Responsible Solutions, that is taking it to it. They are defending and when I say defending, they're giving money to defend the seats of those in state houses who've taken tough votes. So no longer do you take this tough vote and the NRA comes after you and you're a sitting duck. Mm-hmm. And that's a game-changing.
Well, that's the place we've got to look, at state capital after state capital.
Exactly.
Because this Congress is not going to do anything about it, sadly enough. Great reporting, Christina. Thank you so much
for
being on top of this. And thanks for coming in this morning and bringing us up to date as well. When we come back, President Obama at the White House today. What's he up to? I'll let you know when we come back here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, here we go. So good, so far so good, but the big third hour coming up. Don't miss us. We're going to lose you, of course, on Free Speech TV, but you can switch over. Watch the video stream at TawkrTV, TAWKRTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And we have President Jim Hoffa from the Teamsters joining us at the top of the hour, and then Danny Cantor from the Democratic Governors Association. Lots more news, lots more politics coming up in hour number 3.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms. Cubism, symbolism, futurism, constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, at the top of the next hour, President Jim Hoffa, president of the Teamsters Union, will be here to tell us. You know, a lot of you, when I was going to go see President Obama last week for the holiday party, a lot of you said, you've got to ask him about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You got to tell him we don't like that trade deal, the TPP as it's known. President Jim Hoffa will be telling us about that TPP at the top of the next hour. Then we'll talk Democratic governors' races with Danny Canner from the Democratic Governors Association. President Obama, 2 meetings on his calendar today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing at 9:45. And then at 3:15, the President and Vice President meet with Treasury Secretary Jack Lew. We have our White House briefing at 1 o'clock. And by the way, we have up on our website the photo of Carol and me at the White House last week with the First Lady and the President of the United States. Check it out. I think it's a great photo. We all look good and happy, and we were. Merry Christmas from the White House. Take a look.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The House voted on the budget, went home for the holidays. Now it's up to the Senate. Good morning, everybody. They'll be voting as early as tomorrow. Great to see you today. It is Monday, December 16. This is the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital, booming out to you all across this great country of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. You bet. And also on our video stream. Those of you who prefer to actually watch the show rather than just listen to the show, you can do so. Go to your computer, your laptop, your desktop, or whatever, and check out the video stream at YouTube.com. TawkrTV is where I was going. YouTube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. Happy Monday morning, December 16. I hope you had a good weekend. Got a lot of shopping done, getting the holiday spirit, and are ready to tackle now the news of the day. We got a great last hour for you here this Monday morning. Our entire team here, as always, Peter Ogburn.
Hey.
With Elisa Murphy, and Alicia Cruz has got the phones covered, and our good friend Cyprian Bolding on the video stream. Over the weekend, President Obama and the First Lady and the First Daughters went over to the National Building Museum yesterday afternoon, actually, for a great event, a charity event called Christmas in D.C., and they joined with the crowd there singing a lot of Christmas carols.
I don't hear the president in there.
Don't you hear him there? You hear that nice bass voice
listening. I think he's singing a solo. Solo, you can't even hear him.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I got you. Yes, indeed. Family is definitely in the holiday spirit, and First Family, they take off Friday for a 17-day vacation in Hawaii.
Mele Kalikimaka.
Yes, indeed. And no budget deal to keep them here this year.
That's right.
Okay, that budget will be behind them. A great hour here. We're going to start off with a good friend of the program and an important sponsor of the program, President Jim Hoffa from the Teamsters Union. Danny Canner from the Democratic Governors Association will be joining us a little bit later. But President Hoffa, good morning. Merry Christmas to you.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Bill. It's great to hear your voice.
Thank you. Out in Detroit this morning, huh?
Yeah, it's cold here, about 12 degrees.
Oh, my God.
We're just kind of holding on. It's we got a lot of snow, and it's a little bit clear today, but it sure is cold.
Well, Detroit needs a lot of help, so I'm glad you're there to pitch in.
I'm here to help.
Let me ask you, first of all, what do you think of this House of Representatives? 1.3 million Americans lose their unemployment insurance at the end of the year, and they went home and said, basically, we don't care.
Well, I think it's shocking. I think there's a couple good things, though. I'm glad the budget's done.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a big step. And, Boehner did it, what everybody's been saying. Why don't you stand up,
exactly,
to the Tea Party? He finally did that. I mean, a little bit belatedly, 3-4 months. He should have done it last time. But he finally did it, and I think it gave people a little guts to stand up and say, let's get a deal. It might not be a perfect deal, but we've got something. I've talked to a number of people in Congress, in the House, and the Senate, and they say they're going to give it a shot when they come back. It's not dead. It's still alive. We can still work on trying to get these. They're going to go after the unemployment issue. They said we've got to have that, and we're going to revisit it after the first of the year. So it's still alive. And I talked to a couple of senators, and they say, because I was worried about it, and gave them a call and said, "What are we going to do about that?" So we're going to bring it back up. And maybe there's a new spirit right now of not this crazy spirit of cut everything, cut Social Security, cut on it. That basically is the way that the Democrats win. I mean, these guys think that they're going to have a political future. You can't be talking about cutting off food stamps and hurting, 50, 60 million Americans.
Yeah.
And you talk about the third rail. You go and talk to some retirees and tell them they're going to cut their Social Security. Man, you got a war on your hands. So they've always been on the wrong track. You go back to Mitt Romney. I love campaigning against him because all I would say here, raise your hand if you want your Social Security cut. Raise your hand if you want unemployment cut.
Right.
Well, there wasn't a person in the House that wanted that.
No.
The only people that want that are this extreme right wing that thinks that's the way to get to the White House, and that's not the way to get there.
Well, yeah, and Harry Reid has committed, as you pointed out, to bringing the unemployment insurance back up in January and doing it retroactively, and I think we can count on him to at least try to do that, and hopefully John Boehner will be willing to stand up again to his Tea Partiers and get that done. Now, I got to tell you, Jim, last Thursday we had our White House reporters' Christmas party at the White House, right? And that morning on our program, I asked our listeners and our viewers I got just maybe 10 seconds, right, to say hello to the president and to mention one issue. What issue do you think I should mention to him? I can't tell you how many people called to say the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I didn't know that many Americans knew about this trade deal, but you certainly know about it. Tell us about it.
Well, I think that's the problem. I think it's low on the radar, but it's really high on the radar of the White House. And behind the scenes, they're negotiating another, massive NAFTA, bigger than NAFTA,
right?
Type of deal that's going to send jobs overseas. And we're very concerned about this. And I've been in contact with the administration. I've been in contact with everybody. I've been on talk shows saying, "Hey, we don't need another mistake. We don't need to have another bad trade agreement." And we've basically pledged that we'll work with the White House, we'll work with the trade ambassador to try and get a good agreement. But unfortunately, all these agreements end up the same way. They don't guarantee. I mean, we've got Vietnam in this. How's that going to work? We've got Brunei, we've got New Zealand and Chile and places like that. And what we've got to do is have a good labor chapter to say, hey, if we're going to do an agreement, let's do a good agreement. Hey, I'm not against TPP. If we can get a good agreement, that helps people organize, that raises standards throughout the world, and basically the most important thing is creates jobs here in America and opens markets. I thought trade agreements were about opening markets overseas so we can build factories here, export like they do from China to here, like Japan to here, like Korea to here. And I thought that's what we wanted to do. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening. They're even talking about getting the Buy American provision out. So if a state, like Michigan wants to say, hey, when we buy things, we want to buy things made in America to help the economy. We're going to buy police cars. We're going to buy whatever. We want to buy American cars. That's even outlawed in some of these trade agreements. Well, we want the labor chapter. We want an environmental chapter. And most of all, we want to basically make sure that there's a democracy chapter, that the people in this are committed to some type of democracy where people have a right to live, not basically a totalitarian state. Well, these are relatively simple things, but I don't think it's going on. And the biggest thing, Bill, this thing is being done in secret.
I was just going to ask you about that. Isn't that the real problem?
And isn't the answer is the first thing to do is let's make it public.
Yep.
I mean, if this is such a great thing and you're so committed to it, Why is it being done in secret? Why can't we bring this out, give it to the press, give it to the members of Congress, let's all debate it. And if it's good for America, let's do it. And you know what? They won't do it.
No.
This has been the biggest secret. There are 600 corporations working with this, from the tobacco people to the communications people to Wall Street people, Goldman Sachs. They're all at the table. But I'm head of one of the largest labor unions in the country. I can't get copies of this. And the answer is, what we've got to do is to
But neither can members of Congress, right?
That's what they say. And they say, why is this being done in secret? If it's a good deal. But what they want is something called fast track.
Yes.
And when fast track comes up, they're going to basically say, number one, they're going to vote fast track. And then you're never going to see the agreement. I don't know how anybody can vote for fast track if they haven't seen the agreement.
Fast track really means that the president can do it on his own without it having to be approved by Congress, right?
That's right. They're going to come up with some 1,000-page bill, give it to some congressman, Tuesday night, and vote it Wednesday morning and say, up or down. You like it or don't you? And they're going to depend on their majorities in the Senate, and maybe those Republicans like it too. Big business likes this. Hey, by the way, big business loves this deal. Chamber of Commerce loves this deal. When I see that happening, there's something wrong.
I was going to say right away that ought to make you suspicious, right? Again, President James Hoffa from the Teamsters, our guest here on the program this morning. Strong sponsors of the show, for which we're very grateful, and you can find out more about their good work at their website, teamster.org. I noticed on your website this morning, Jim, you've got a banner, Help Stop the War on Workers. The unemployment insurance is one aspect of that. There really has been a war on workers lately, hasn't it, on the part of the particularly Republicans in Congress?
Well, starting in 2010, and it's also been in the States. We've seen, Scott Walker, what he's done in Wisconsin, where basically he took away the right for people to negotiate and basically have unions. I mean, what he's done up there to public employees, taking their right to bargain away, has been unbelievable, and we're losing members up there. They're happy. They want to make that a red state, and that's happening there. We've got Rick Snyder here in Michigan. We've got right to work. Can you imagine Michigan?
No.
The cradle of unionism has right to work, and he did it not by a vote of the people. He did it, by a lame duck session of a defeated House and Senate. And then in Ohio with Kasich, we had the battles there where he tried to pass, bills that would take away the right to organize. But we were able to win there and rally people and put it on the ballot, and we won it. And the same battle goes on in Virginia. We know what's going on in Virginia. I'm glad Terry McAuliffe won there. But and the battle in Congress goes on. When you have somebody like Mitt Romney running, and part of his platform is national right to work, you really wonder, what are they thinking? I mean, they think unions are that bad, and unfortunately they do. So they've got a war on workers, and it goes from every state. And the most interesting thing is you see the same battle and the same legislation introduced in every state. And it comes out of this thing called ALEC, where it basically is an office that just cranks out this anti-labor, anti-worker material.
And we know where their money comes from.
Oh, a big business all the way.
Koch brothers.
That's right. You see the Koch brothers, and you see in Missouri, right to work going to be on the ballot. You see it. It's the same legislation, the same idea, anti-abortion, voter suppression. You got to have ID to go vote. You got to have this. You see the same things, anything from California to Missouri to Indiana. It goes right across the country. So they have the same. I swear to God, they mail out a playbook in the morning. And all these different governors get that, and probably all the Republicans on Capitol Hill get the same talking points, and they get the same playbook every day. So you see the same legislation in Pennsylvania popping up, in Ohio, in Indiana, in Michigan, and it's amazing. They got a plan, and that is what we mean when we say war on workers.
Right, state after state after state. I thought of you the other night. The good UPS driver came to our door with a couple of packages, and this is a time when there's a real difference between delivery services, isn't there?
Well, UPS is the top one. It's twice as big as FedEx. People don't realize that. I hate when people just use the thing to say just FedEx it. Yeah, it's like Jell-O. UPS is the premier when it's our largest employer. We're working to get a good contract with them. We've got it, 98% done. And we urge people to use that. I always tell the administration, and I'm glad to say that they do use UPS now.
Yeah. As I recall, don't you have on your website something about don't send us anything by FedEx because we won't accept it?
Oh, that's right. We had, I always tell the story about the Nixon administration, or no, it wasn't Nixon, it was Bush, was trying to send me something, and they called up and they say, how come we can't get this material to you? And I said, well, we don't. How'd you send it? And they said, FedEx. I said, well, we didn't accept it. And they said, well, why not? And they could not understand the concept that we don't accept things sent by FedEx.
Yeah, well, there's a big difference in UPS. I know you've always had a good working relationship with UPS. And just finally, one other thing. I noticed IKEA. I didn't realize that they were labor unfriendly as they are.
Well, they're organized over in Europe, and they really give us a hard time here. And they have this whole idea of not being unionized. And we've had a tremendous battle in Canada and a couple other places that goes on and on and on. And we're trying to bring better wages to those folks, and the people are supportive of us. But, boy, we've been getting tremendous resistance from them, surprisingly. So what we're trying to do is to take it, back to Europe and talk to the people that have IKEA and say, hey, let's get realistic here and treat the people in the United States the same way you treat them in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep the pressure on and shine the spotlight on some of those practices, which is what you've been doing. Well, President Hoffa, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
All right, and thanks again for all your support for the show for many, many years. Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV, this is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, at 25 minutes after the hour, we're going to be talking with Democratic governors' races with Danny Cantor from the Democratic Governors Association in the next segment of the Bill Press Show this Monday morning. A couple of things on the political front. We mentioned earlier that the son of Jeb Bush is finally, they've been talking about this forever. 39 years old, I think. George P. Bush, Jeb's son, has made it official. He's running for land commissioner in the state of Texas. Texas, not Florida, Texas.
Yeah. Just what America needs. Another Bush running for office.
And here's why he says he's out there.
I'm George P. Bush, and I'm running for Texas Land Commissioner because I want to make a difference in the lives of all Texans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll bet he does. All I got to say is, after what we saw last week, I think George W. Bush, uncle of George P., should not be too happy for his son for his nephew to be elected, because you know what nephews do to uncles these days in politics, right?
That's a good point.
Uncles are not safe anymore.
Yeah,
just look at North Korea, man. You know,
was his nephew the uncle the land commissioner? Because it's sort of a dead end job if you're in North Korea.
Yes. It's also reported this morning that Hillary Clinton may have her first serious challenger for 2016. Are you ready for this? A man who has said, when asked, "Are you going to run for president in 2016?" He said, wait a minute, I want to get the exact quote here. I didn't say I wouldn't, but I didn't say I was going to run. But it's something I'm interested in. None other than Brian Schweitzer, our guest last week, former governor of Montana, good friend of the program. He has said he's not out of politics, and he is going to Iowa soon to give a major speech in Iowa. And he told the Weekly Standard, live free or die, which happens to be the slogan of the motto of the state of New Hampshire. He said, we Montanans understand a lot about that. Live free or die.
Oh, man.
Brian Schweitzer out there. Yes, indeed. So when we get back, a lot of important governor's races in around the country coming up. Democratic governors on the line, a lot of chances to pick up maybe some more seats for Democratic governors. Danny Cantor will tell us all about that here on this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. So stick around for another half hour and find out about these important governor's races.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You got it. 33 minutes after the hour now here on a Monday morning, December 16. It is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you this morning by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. Good men and women of the Sheet Metal Workers Union, now combined with Air, Rail, and Transportation. They call themselves the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. You bet. And find out more about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. I love that they call themselves the SMART Union. It's not that the other unions aren't smart either, but they are the official SMART Union. We talked a little bit earlier this morning about Senate races and the 34 Senate races that are up next year. Well, there are also 36 governor's races up next year. Very, very important. Danny Cantor is the communications director, I got it right, for the Democratic Governors Association. A good friend of the program. It's good to welcome you back to the studio. Hi, Danny.
Thanks for having me.
How are you
here.
doing?
Good.
You had a big party here last week with the Democratic governors?
We did. We had all the Democratic governors and our candidates for 2014 gathered in Washington here. We reelected Governor Shumlin as chair of the DGA, and he had a very successful year as chair, as opposed to Bobby Jindal at the RGA, who lost the one competitive race. So we feel really good headed into 2014.
Yeah, good. Everybody's. So tell us about these. How do these 36 break down?
Well, not all of them are going to be competitive, but what you have is Democrats on offense here. Because in 2010, in the Tea Party wave, traditionally Democratic states, particularly states President Obama won twice, elected Republican governors. So states like Florida and Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Maine, Wisconsin, Iowa elected Republican governors. The public soured on those governors because they've pursued the same economic policy, reward the wealthiest and major corporations at the expense of the middle class and investments in education. We have a number of pickup opportunities in states you might not think of, in South Carolina, in Texas, in Georgia, in Arizona. We're also defending Arkansas, where Mike Ross is our candidate there, and we believe can continue the legacy of Governor Beebe, who's the most popular governor in the country, and get elected as a Democrat.
So it is interesting that these states that we think of as blue states, or certainly purple, where their President Obama was able to carry them, and yet they ended up electing a Republican governor, which sort of goes against the grain. You mentioned Pennsylvania, Ohio.
Yep. Well, in 2010, what you saw...
Michigan.
Absolutely. What you saw in 2010 was the Tea Party wave that brought in the Republican Congress. It also brought in a whole host of Republican governors. But again, the public has really soured on them because they pursued an agenda that's not in touch with the people of those states. They're not the values and policies that voters in those states want, which is why we feel really good.
Of the 36, 22 are now held by Republicans?
Yeah, that's right. And again, they have... Well, in January, when Governor-elect McAuliffe is sworn as governor, they'll have 29. After 2010, we had 19 governors. So we are on the slow march back here to a bit of parity. So, I think we can draw some serious lessons from Virginia, where you had a state that the president won twice. He wasn't at the top of the ticket, but by focusing on issues that matter in the day-to-day lives of working families, jobs, schools, infrastructure, and contrasting that with the Republican agenda, which is tax cuts for the wealthiest and corporations, paid for by gutting education and raising middle-class taxes, and really what is a radical social agenda, we feel good that we can replicate that success across the country.
Now, before we get to, and I'd like to go through several of these states and let us know what the lay of the land looks like there. a word about the importance of governors. I mean, because I think we've seen, my take is that we are suffering from neglect of attention to governor's races, and I might add state legislative races, particularly when we look at this House of Representatives, these Tea Party Republicans, the redistricting that allowed them to get these seats, that it's going to be hard to get away from them. So these governors' positions, they're damn important, aren't they?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, if we care about the issues that we say we care about during presidential election years, which are, access for women to get quality health care, voting rights, tax policy, job creation, investments in infrastructure and innovation and education.
Environment, no matter what issue, right?
Yep. These are the issues that governors deal with on a day-to-day basis, and Republican governors have systematically, across the country, state by state, implemented the national Republican agenda, which is not good for the middle class. It's not good for women. It's not good for immigrants. It's not good for gay Americans. So we're going to run next year making the very clear argument that if it weren't for a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate, House Republicans would be implementing the very agenda that governors are implementing state by state. In doing so, they fostered the same hostility and divisiveness. We saw it with Scott Walker in the collective bargaining fight. We saw it with Rick Snyder in the right to work fight. We saw it with John Kasich in Senate Bill 5 and in Texas with the Wendy Davis filibuster. It is the same hostility and divisiveness paired with a top-down economic philosophy and radical social agenda that House Republicans could only dream of getting done. But it's getting done state by state, and I think Democrats and progressives broadly should focus on these races because that's where the action is. That's where the DGA and the RGA agree. Washington is paralyzed. The action is in the states. Governors are getting things done. The problem is there are a lot of Republican governors who are getting things done that are awful for the middle class and women and all those other groups. So we've got to stop them. We've got to roll them back and take back some of these state houses.
Yeah. No, I preach that everywhere I go. That it's important to groups that I speak to. It's important not just to focus on the White House, as exciting as that is. Nothing more exciting than a really good presidential race. You got then you have your Senate races. They're also important, and House races. But if you're either as a political volunteer, an activist, or writing checks, you also got to look at the governor's races and state legislative races.
Couldn't agree more. I mean,
so much policy is made at that level.
Yeah, look at Chris Christie. So much of the media attention in 2013 focused on 2016. What you have now is 2 weeks before the election, he flip-flops on tuition equality for the children of undocumented immigrants. The minute the election is over, he's back to his right-wing position. He says he'll veto the state version of the DREAM Act. So now people in that state have to suffer under these right-wing policies. And there was never really a focus on the issues merely because of 2016 horse race and, the late-night talk show shtick that he brings to the table.
All right, so let's start with Virginia, because we had a big success in Virginia this year. Our good friend, Terry McAuliffe, will be sworn in January. And you would think that, Terry McAuliffe, in a sense, was the luckiest politician alive in 2013 because he got as an opponent Ken Cuccinelli, who's extreme right-wing as you could get, and proud of it. And so didn't try to moderate his views. Now, so is that a lesson that Republicans have learned around the country, or are other Republican governors sort of mirroring or echoing Ken Cuccinelli?
I think first we need to say how difficult that race was. It was 40 years since a governor was elected in Virginia, the same party as the president. Traditionally, in an off year, you have an older, whiter, more conservative electorate. This was not an easy race. But no matter what we believe about Ken Cuccinelli, but Terry ran a race that was focused on the issues that matter in people's everyday lives: jobs, schools, infrastructure, community colleges, higher ed. And he focused on those issues, and he drew fair attention to a really extreme ideological agenda. But that's the same agenda that's being implemented across the country by Republican governors. So mandatory ultrasounds for women, Tom Corbett in Pennsylvania, Rick Scott in Florida, Scott Walker and John Kasich in Wisconsin and Ohio, voter suppression happening across the country. There's a new bill moving through the Ohio legislature. You saw it in Florida with the voter purges. You saw it in Pennsylvania with the attack on the Electoral College. So I don't believe Republicans have learned the lesson because they continue to pursue the same policies. When Ken Cuccinelli did focus on the economic agenda for Virginia, what he proposed was massive tax cuts for the wealthiest in corporations, pay for it by gutting education, gutting public safety, raising middle-class taxes. That's what you've seen in Ohio. It's what you've seen in Kansas with Sam Brownback. You've seen it in Louisiana. You've seen it in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Maine and across the board. So they're still pursuing the same agenda. And we know that when Democrats focus on those issues, Terry McAuliffe showed it, we can win. So I think in a lot of these states that the president won twice and even beyond, voters don't want an ideological crusader as governor. They want people who are just going to make their lives better, make the trains run on time. And we've seen instead from Republican governors and their candidates really an ideological shift rightward. And I don't believe that's what people want in a governor.
All right. So what are what are your top five priorities?
Well, I think what you first have to look at those states that the president won twice. Mm-hmm. You look at the bluest of those states, and that's Maine, where Governor Paul LePage was elected in 2010 in a three-way race. He's proven not only to be a disaster for the middle class, but he's proven to be a national embarrassment for Maine. He's referred to the IRS as the Gestapo. He said that 47 of able-bodied Mainers don't work, echoing Mitt Romney. He said that President Obama hates white people. So I think that Maine, in Mike Michaud, who's a Democratic congressman from the 2nd District, he's first of all he will be a governor that Mainers can be proud of, but also he's increase investment in education and higher ed, increase the minimum wage, expand Medicaid, which Paul LePage has refused to do, so thousands of Mainers can have access to quality, affordable health care. So that's a state where we feel very good. Pennsylvania.
Okay. Let's hold it right there and find out some of the other important states that are looking good. You did not mention the most important thing about Mike Michaud is that he's my neighbor here on Capitol Hill.
Know that. That's great.
Right.
Great guy.
He is, indeed. We'll be right back here with Danny Cantor from the Democratic Governors Association. You live in a state where you got a governor you want to get rid of. Here's a man who's going to help you do it. Your questions, your comments, welcome. Your suggestions at 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show. Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, we got it 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. We are gearing up for the big elections, gubernatorial elections in 2014 around the country. Imagine, 36 of them. Yeah. You are most likely not going to be spared. And some very, very important states. Maine, and Danny Cantor is here with us. He's communications director of the Democratic Governors Association, which is democraticgovernors.org. Pennsylvania, you started to go there.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Well, Governor Corbett...
Yeah, that's an embarrassment.
Yeah, he really is an embarrassment, and his numbers reflect it. I mean, he hovers around 20%. He's basically been a failure by his own standard. He laid out a series of priorities on job creation and liquor privatization and pension reform, despite a lot of allies in the Republican legislature, been unable to get it done. He's also, signed a mandatory ultrasound bill and said, oh, it's no big deal. Women can just close their eyes. He compared marriage equality to the marriage of first two 12-year-olds and then the marriage of a brother and a sister. So this is someone who has failed on the economic...
This is Pennsylvania.
It's Pennsylvania.
Well, yeah.
And this is why we feel so good about 2014, because this just doesn't reflect the values of the state. And by his own standard, he's failed. Pennsylvania has not come back economically in a way that he promised. So,
right, but he's up for re-election?
He's up for re-election.
So you need to beat him with somebody.
We do, and we have a competitive primary, a whole host of great candidates. Allison Schwartz, pretty moderate Democratic congressman from Philadelphia. Rob McCord, the state treasurer, who's won statewide. We have a whole bunch of Tom Wolfe, who served in Governor Rendell's administration, Katie McGinty, a whole bunch of candidates there. I think whoever emerges from that primary is going to communicate that we can just do better here in Pennsylvania and more in line with our values. So I think Tom Corbett has about a year to go as governor.
Yeah. Okay. What's your next priority?
Well, look, we have a whole host of them, but Florida would be a big race for us.
Florida. How about in Michigan too? Right.
Oh, Michigan's a huge race for us. I mean,
start with Florida.
Yeah. So Florida, Rick Scott ran as a corporate executive who was going to come in, create economic growth, clean up the state. Obviously, the biggest Medicare fraud fine as CEO of Columbia HCA, $1.6 billion, biggest fraud at the time. And I think what we'll communicate to voters is that both as a corporate executive and governor, he has proven that he will do absolutely anything to reward the wealthiest and his pals.
He's a failure at both, right?
Not only is a failure, but his values are clear. He will reward his pals and the wealthiest, no matter what it takes, at the expense of the middle class. His policies reflect it. There was a huge expose in the Miami Herald and Tampa Bay Times about a week ago, with a three-part series that said the part of job creation that he really can control, which is economic incentive, et cetera, which is how he spends most of his time, ribbon cuttings. He's created about 4% of the jobs he's promised, which really shouldn't come as a surprise because a lot of these are just giveaways to corporations. So he has not succeeded. In a state like Michigan, where you had a governor who pretends to be just a regular, all-moderate technocrat, promised right to work wasn't on his agenda. We're approaching the one-year anniversary of right to work in Michigan.
Which he forced through.
Well, which he said that he wouldn't do. The Republican legislature passes it in a lame duck session. He immediately signs it, saying that it would create jobs. Here we are a year later. December of 2012, unemployment rate 8.9%. December of 2013, it's 9%. So it's gone up. He gave a $1.8 billion corporate tax giveaway in his first year. He paid for it by taxing workers' pensions and by cutting education. So as we look forward here, we have a candidate in Mark Schauer, who...
By the way, with Rick Snyder, too. Don't forget Detroit, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, letting Detroit fail.
Well, he lets Detroit fail. Another thing that he said that he would do everything he could not to do. But I think what we'll see over the next year is, does he continue to act on what appear to be his values? Does he pay back Wall Street creditors while cutting workers' pensions? I think we're going to see a clear sense of his priorities. And based on his first 3 years in office, corporate tax cuts, cutting education, reversing himself on right to work, I think we know what he's going to do. His numbers are not good. I wouldn't be comfortable if I was an incumbent governor sitting in the low 40s. And we have a great candidate in Mark Schauer who's talking about education as a key to economic success in the 21st century, a skilled workforce, worker retraining. So I feel very confident there. We also have Wisconsin, where I know we've spent a lot of time over the last few years talking about Wisconsin, but Scott Walker is up for re-election. He's in a dead heat with his likely Democratic opponent, Mary Burke, who is former executive of Trek Bicycles, a big Wisconsin company. And Scott Walker will tell you, he says it on the record, I can't get higher than 52% of the vote because the state is so divided. What he doesn't finish his sentence and say the state is so divided because of me. So he's someone, again, $1.85 billion cut in education, extends corporate tax breaks, picks ideological DC-style fights by attacking workers, 100,000 protesters in the Capitol, we remember. But we have, unfortunately, last year what we had in the recall was that race became a referendum on the recall itself. I think what you're going to have next year is a real referendum on his record, on Scott Walker. And can we do better? Can we elect someone who's going to create good middle-class jobs, invest in education, balance budgets in a way that doesn't kill the middle class?
Now, one that we haven't talked about, I want to go out on a limb and tell you, not ask you, I'm just telling you, Jerry Brown will be reelected governor of California.
I feel very confident that Jerry Brown will be reelected governor.
And should be reelected.
Absolutely.
He's done a great job. You got your hands full, man, coming into 2014.
It's going to be a busy year.
All right, thanks, Danny. Thanks for coming in today, and we want to see you often and bring us up to date on these as we go along.
That.
Great. And I'll be back with today's parting shot.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV, this is The Bill Press Show. on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, it's not much of a deal, but it is a deal, and that in itself makes it a big deal. If you know what I mean. Of course, I'm talking about the budget agreement reached by Chairman Paul Ryan and Democrat Senator Patty Murray, hammered together, already passed by the House, and the Senate will begin voting on it, debating it as early as tomorrow. Now, look, everybody can agree on two things about this deal. Number one, it doesn't do much. And number two, it does get a lot of stuff wrong. Conservatives don't like it because it increases spending and does little to cut the deficit. Liberals, of course, like me, don't like it because it doesn't do anything about unemployment insurance. But there are three reasons to like this deal. One, it proves that Democrats and Republicans can get something done if they agree to work together. Two, it's a 2-year deal, meaning we're out of this month-to-month fiscal crisis mess. And three, to get this deal done, John Boehner finally had to stand up to the Tea Party, and he did. So now, that's good news. Maybe having defied the Tea Party once and survived, John Boehner will learn that he should do that over and over and over again. Hey, have a great Monday, folks. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.